Well, we have our first glimpse into the heart of chaos in Arachne Black Widow here, and it looks like I was pretty correct in my assumption in the last video when I mentioned that I believed these Demi-Hero type cards were going to be pretty powerful in their effects because, of course, you're losing out on a pretty solid effect in Arachne. In becoming these, you're not able to control which one you become at any given time, so all of that leads us to believe that, of course, these would be pretty powerful Demi-Heroes, and it does appear that is going to be the case. And it only appears that you're going to be able to hold on to them for a singular turn. So this one, Arachne Black Widow, Agent of Chaos, is the first of 6, indicated on the top of the text box by that little number 1. If you roll a 6-sided die and you come up with number 1, you will transform into Arachne Black Widow. This is 4 intellect. Star health, meaning that you keep the health from the Arachne that you had previously. Star health Chaos Assassin Demi-Hero. And it has the effect that says, once per turn attack reaction, discard an assassin card. That's the cost. And then it says, target assassin attack gets +3. And if that targeted assassin attack is a stealth attack or has the stealth keyword, it gets, when this hits a hero, they banish a card from their hand. This is an incredibly powerful effect. You can only use it on one of your attacks for the turn, and of course, you would have to have an attack during the game when you transform into this on the turn that you want to actually use the effect, but this can target all assassin daggers. This can target any assassin attack action card, and you are incentivized to use this on a stealth attack, which is on a blue face, it's usually a 1 power attack card. On a red, it's usually a 3 power attack card. So when you look at this effect, you are discarding a card from your own hand to give something +3. It costs you nothing except the card. That is the equivalent, if we're looking at just power level cards, that's the equivalent of Iron Song Response red. Okay, but this does not have a drawback that Iron Song Response has that the opponent has to have blocked. Instead, this has a benefit in that if it hits, you basically pummel them. And the pummel's even better because it goes not to the discard, but to the banished zone. So this is an Iron Song Response with a pummel on hit trigger if it goes onto a stealth attack that you're sending, which is quite good. Okay, that's very good. If we're looking at parity, pummel costs 2, and it adds +4 on its red face. Iron Song Response costs 0, and it adds +3 and nothing else, right? Like that's the parity that we're looking at. This is adding +3 and an on-hit effect for the cost of the card that you're playing. Remember, Pummel costs a card, which is Pummel, and the resources. Iron Song Response just costs the card, but you have to meet the requirement of them having blocked. So what does that mean? It means that this is above rate in every respect. This is going onto an underrate card, meaning that if you become Arachne Black Widow, your opponent has to go, okay, this is a stealth attack that is attacking me for 1. Are they going to trigger the effect on this, or will they maybe just give this go again and then trigger it on the next thing? That's annoying. That's very good. That's very powerful. I think this is a very good card. Now, this is balanced out by these bottom text here that says, at the beginning of your end phase, return to the Brood, which reverts you back to the Arachne that we've already seen. So you get this effect for 1 turn. Again, high-power Demi-Hero, only for a turn, and you can't control the one you pick. I think this is really cool. I think this is going to be really fun. There are a couple people that commented on the last video. They were like, okay, so what's this actually going to look like? Are you going to have to draft these cards, or do you just have all of them? Turns out you're going to just have access to all of these cards. They don't count towards your inventory. You don't have to include them and count them in your deck counts. You just have to have them as a requirement to playing this new Arachne. So I think that's very smart. I think it's a really good idea, and I really appreciate the fact that this isn't going to count towards your deck size. But this is not the only card we're going to talk about today, because continuing where we left off, we have a couple of more cards to look at, some new spoiled cards, expansion slot cards, and one, in fact, I'll start here with Provoke, that is not an expansion slot card, but is worthy of being talked about. Provoke is a warrior attack reaction card. It's a blue, it's a 1-pitch card. You can obviously pitch it for 3, but it costs 1 card. Like I said, it's attack reaction, blocks for 3, and it says, if you're attacking with a weapon this chain link, the defending hero reveals a card from their hand. If it's an action card that they choose to reveal, add it to this chain link as a defending card, otherwise they discard it. So what does this do? One, it can take a card from your opponent, even if you're not necessarily loving the idea that they're blocking your attack. You can still take a card from the opponent. That can be very good, especially in late game scenarios as Warrior, when you are playing like these single-digit life totals back and forth with your opponent, and your opponent is trying to make the effective correct block and then have their own 2-card turn. Playing this means you've ruined them. You've ruined their turn. They no longer get to play that back and forth game because they blocked with 2 cards, kept 2 cards, and you say, give me 1 more. As long as they're 2 action cards, which almost every hero in the game will have, unless you're like Riptide with 2 defense reactions, or if you have a bunch of instants, I guess, and you're arsenaled your only attack, like an Aurora or something like that. Provoke breaks the turn cycle wide open, which is very, very good. What it also does is it activates reprise effects in Warrior, which can be quite good as well. You look at reprise effects that you want to activate. Heck, Iron Song Response. You swing with Dawnblade, you play Provoke, guarantee Iron Song Response gets played. Heck, guarantee Route, even though that would be a little bit weird to throw that and throw it back. But it's kind of funny because that works all off of 3 resources, which is a blue pitch. So Provoke and Route, just for the memes, I guess. I don't know why you would want to do that, but you can guarantee a lot of reprise effects that you normally wouldn't have been able to do, like Out for Blood. No one plays really Out for Blood at all, and Provoke means you could technically like activate Out for Blood. You could do some weird kind of shenanigans with that. But yeah, this pulls cards in ways that Siren's Call kind of does, and we all know Siren's Call is pretty good. Now, here's the thing. Siren's Call is a red pitch, 0 cost. So, I mean, it's the blue pitch, though. 3 block. Costing 1. If this cost 0, this card would be just even better. I don't know. This is a pretty solid card. The fact that it also just allows you to discard the card if they can't show an action card. You just force a card from them regardless. It's pretty solid. I was looking at this when this first came out, and I've been playing Kasai again. I got back on the Kasai train, and I was looking at this card going, yeah, I would sub out 1 set of blues just to play this card. It seems very solid indeed, and I'm very curious to see how it's going to play into Fang, who of course can play it in the draft and limited sets in general. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Other cards that we got in the expansion slot this time, Thick Hide Hunter, which is a 6 power, 2 cost, yellow pitch, 6 defense attack, which is hilarious. It's a 6 defense attack. And it says, when this attack or defends, discard a random card. Now, this is really interesting because if you were playing this in KO, you can, obviously play this out and discard a random card, hit a 6, and gain your might for the turn. And a 2 for 6 is just totally on rate. But it's even better if you are playing as any brute and want to block, because if you want to block, you get 6 block out of this card. So many times, brutes have these cards that just absolutely can't block. They're played because they're good, and they cause the whole like draw discard mechanic, but they don't block. They don't even have 0 block value. They have no block value indicated, which means you can't do anything with it, right? This is the antithesis of that. This can block so incredibly well, but it loses you a card in doing so. But sometimes that might be okay. You might be okay with dropping a card because you get this big benefit of blocking 6. This essentially, and this is the kind of fun part about the math of the game of Flesh and Blood, is this is a 2-card block for 6, which is oftentimes what you want to do. But in Brute, you're not allowed to do that because so many cards don't block. So this makes up for it in some way, shape, or form, because if you discard a no-block card, then you are technically using it for an effective 3 block value. So I think this is a really fun card. It will be included, I think, in certain Brute, I should say, lists. A lot of people were like, this is a great Rhinar card. And I'm like, who? What? That's a hero? Anyway, Trimmer Shield Sabatons. Is that how you say that? Sabatons? I don't know. I've never seen that word in my life. Either way, it's a Guardian leg equipment that blocks for 1, has Blade Break, and it says instant destroy this. Prevent the next 1 arcane damage that would be dealt to you this turn if you've controlled a Seismic Surge token this turn. Instead, prevent the next 2. Like, why? Why? Just, this card sent me to the moon and back. This card and frickin' this card, I I don't know, man. I just have so many issues right now. Like, if Classic Constructed is the premier format of the game, and Wizards don't exist in the format, like, what's the... I get it. I understand. I understand that these are long-form developments. The game's been around for 5 years, and this is another great piece to try and help Guardians be better as a class, because they do lose fairly consistently to Wizards. I get it, but it's just the timing of it is just so silly. It's so silly to me, because we just had the perceived Wizard set in Wizard and Runeblade, and really we just got the Runeblade part of that set if you think about it. But this is a fine card. I mean, it's not going to make or break anything. This to me is one of those... So like, we've had a couple of sets now of equipment pieces in those sets that like just do lots of flexible things for classes and heroes, and this is another one of those. It's like, cool. It has Arcane Barrier 1 and it has Battle Worn 1 as a leg piece. This is fantastic. All Guardian, or sorry, not Guardians, because I'm thinking about Starvo. All Starvos should play this in the leg slot. Easy peasy, problem solved. Like, that's such a great card because it does like everything. It's a Swiss Army knife. It doesn't have to eat up your sideboard slots. This kind of feels a little bit like that. It can Blade Break 1, and it can be used to destroy and prevent some arcane damage as a Guardian player. So I feel like this like fits that niche pretty well. Roing Fisher, which is X+1 for the cost. It is a blue Guardian action that blocks for 3, and it says destroy an aura with cost X or less. Then you may destroy Seismic Surge you control. If you do, repeat this process. So you would, for example, if you were playing against people that are making like rune chants, for example, or even better, Enigma, right? And they have a bunch of spectral shields on the ground, and you made some Seismic Surges. You could pay 1 and then destroy a you have the Seismic Surges. Destroy a spectral shield, and then destroy one of your Seismic Surges. Destroy another one of their spectral shields. Go back and forth, destroying as many Seismic Surges as they have, or as you have available to destroy their auras that you're targeting, which is pretty cool. But the better part is, of course, that if they have like a big aura on the board, or like a Prism, for example, let's say Prism has like Genesis, which costs 4. You can pay 5, which would be a little awkward because you'd be pitching 2 blues essentially for this, but you could pay 5 and just destroy Genesis. And in doing so, you're not triggering Spectra because you're not targeting it. And so you can just play out your turn as you go. I think this is a fantastic freaking card. I think this is incredible. I think it's like a windmill slam in the sideboard. Just super duper good. I'm really, really happy with this card. I think this is a great card for Guardian. Again, Guardian's going to be eating well once the Guardian Mastery Pack comes out, which is now going to push a little further down the timeline into next year. Nevertheless, this is just another card that gives them tools to deal with some of their worst matchups, and that's Wizard and Illusionist. And now maybe they have a few more opportunities to try and make hay in those matchups. Chain Reaction. This card's so cool, and yet it's so weird. Like, it's such a head scratcher of a card. First of all, Chain Reaction is a yellow pitch 0 cost 3 block defense reaction. It's a trap. Okay, it can be played by Rangers only. It says when this defends an attack with Go Again, which is most of the things in the game, which is great because this can be played very heavily. It says you may turn a non-attack action card in your arsenal face up, and if you do, you may play it on your opponent's turn. Keep in mind, you may play it this turn as though it were an instant. Now, what would you want to do that with? Well, let's go and look at the non-attack action cards that you could play. Let's go cards, and let's go Ranger. Let's just sort by Ranger, because this is worth diving into a little bit. Set, no. Type, no. Foiling class, here it is. It was right next to my cursors. There we go. And then let's go ST, non-attack. Boom. Okay, so you could play any of the codices, which is pretty cool. You could play Codex of Bloodrot, and they would have to drop a card into their arsenal, and then they would create a pondered token for yourself, which is actually pretty awesome. You could play Codex of Frailty, which is kind of weird because it gives them a card back, but maybe makes them discard. You could play Codex of Inertia, which I think is really fun because it gives you a card back. It replenishes itself basically, but it forces whatever cards on the top of their deck into the arsenal. Blood Rot's probably the best out of the three of them. You can play a bunch of these cards, which don't do anything. Probably don't do anything. But the real one that like a lot of people were talking about, let me go down here, is Three of a Kind. Three of a Kind, playing this out, paying 1, draws you 3 cards. So if you have Three of a Kind in your arsenal, you can just flip this over, play it out, draw 3 cards, and then you're like up a card in that exchange. Like if you have a 4-card hand, you play the trap. You play out the Three of a Kind, paying 1, floating 2 resources, and then you go 1, 2, 3. You're up to 5 cards on your turn. So it's essentially you have your 5-card hand with your Three of a Kind in arsenal, and now you've drawn 5 cards, and you can play it out however you see fit because you don't have this stipulation. Until end of turn, you may only play cards from arsenal because that was on the previous turn when you drew those cards. That's pretty awesome. Now, that's not the only thing that you can do. Plan for the Worst is also really cool as well, because if you play Plan for the Worst, you get to look at everything that they have at that moment, and then at the beginning of their next end phase, which is that turn, they get rid of everything. So it's essentially like giving them an inertia token, and it blows everything up, so they can't even like play around it in arsenal. Well, I guess they could. They could trigger this effect, and then trigger like a ponder. That would be something they could do. But not only that, it searches your deck for up to 3 traps, reveals them, puts them into your hand, and shuffle 2 cards from your hand into your deck. So it gives you another card to replace itself as well. So this is a pretty cool effect because you could also chain that together, because if you are playing with the new card, which I forgot the name of, Chain Reaction, you can grab another Chain Reaction and have that. But here's the crazy part. If you're playing as Riptide, you don't even have to have the non-attack in your arsenal. It can be in your hand because you can Chain Reaction, and then Riptide Trigger lets you put that non-attack into the arsenal. So you can do this off a natural draw, off of just draw 4 random cards and hit Chain Reaction and Three of a Kind. And in doing so, Chain Reaction, Three of a Kind drops into the arsenal, flip, revealing the, activating Chain Reaction, flip the Three of a Kind, play it at instant speed, and then you're up to 4 cards again. So that's kind of cool. You can do like weird stuff with that. You can do the same thing with Plan for the Worst in a more like defensive deck. So I think this is a really, really fun card that I looked at it and I was like, kind of weird. And the more I thought about it, it's like, you could do some cool shenanigans with this. Finally, we have to talk about this. A year in the making, almost a year in the making, because January, we had the opportunity, nay, the pleasure, the once-in-a-lifetime experience to travel to New Zealand. And Brody Spurlock won the Celebrational and designed this card. Well, close to this card. After some heavy tweaking and some really, really cool, game design being applied to the original design of the card, Spurlocked now graces us with Chaos Action, 0 cost, 3 pitch, 3 block card. And it says each hero secretly chooses a number between 1 and 6. I guess you would, write it down on a piece of paper. Then those numbers are revealed. The hero that chose the highest number loses that much life, searches their deck for a card with cost less than or equal to the chosen number, reveals it, puts it into their hand, then shuffles. So if both players say the same thing, nothing happens. But if one player says 6 and the other player says 5, then the player that said 6 loses 6 life and goes and gets something that costs 6 or less. Now, of course, in order to do this, you have to be a Chaos hero because this is the Chaos talent. And right now that is only Arachne. So this can only currently be played in Arachne unless there's some sort of a rule stipulation that says they can't. But it fits the Chaos theme perfectly because what the heck? Now, here's the crazy part. What if everyone just says 6, regardless of like if you say 6, like what? I guess it's 6 damage. In a late game scenario, you can't really bid 6. You have to bid something less, like because you're putting 6 life, and yeah, you're getting an extra card, but the card is replacing itself. So like you play this card and you get a better card. So you're technically down a card, right? You're not, I guess you're down a card, essentially, because you're going from a 4-card hand to a 4-card hand. The card is going up, and you're not down a card. You're card neutral. You're replacing this card with the best card in your deck, but you're losing 6 life to do it. So that's an interesting trade-off. But your opponent can just say, okay, 6, and then everything gets canceled out, or they take 6 life in like life loss. So it's weird, right? It's like a weird like head scratcher of a card. Like, Do you ever say anything other than 6? Do you say like 4 and you hope that your opponent like didn't say 6? No, I don't know. It's just like it's like a funky card, man. It fits chaos perfectly because I look at this and I go, well, what the heck's gonna happen? Who even knows, man? But that is Brody Spurlock. There's a sandwich on the table. There's him drawing cards and kicking his feet up, and it is pretty hilarious. So that is an awesome card. This set is looking like a banger, and I'm excited to see what is going to be coming down the pipeline. We're going to have more of these. Well, we'll just put it this way. We're going to have more Demi-Heroes. I'll do that. More Demi-Heroes on the way. So if you want to see more videos about each of the Demi-Heroes and how they possibly might play out, let me know in a comment below and make the number go to another number if you enjoy these types of videos. As always, everybody, thanks for watching.